Welcome into a Citrus TV digital exclusive. Nick Luttrell here, going to be the reporter for tonight's game between Syracuse men's basketball and Louisville. Now joined by Emmy award-winning sports director at WLKY in Louisville, Fred Cowgill. Fred, thanks for taking the time to talk to me for a little bit.
Nick, my privilege.
And this is a Cardinals team. You've been following them for a lot of years on for men's basketball and a lot of their sports. I guess my first question is coming off of their impressive win against Florida State on Saturday. What impressed you the most about that win for the Cardinals?
The fact that they won, I don't think even the most loyal Louisville fan might have called that one. It's been a challenge situation here, as you might suspect, for a couple of years. I've known Kenny. I got here in 1986. He was still playing for Louisville and right after they won the national championship. So there are a lot of layers to this. My 38th season covering them, and it's been a tough get the last 2 years. And we're really sort of at a pivotal point right now in the program's history. And can he stay here? Where's this going to go? There's enormous political pressure to move on from him no later than the end of the season. But if the Cardinals continue to find traction like they did against Florida State, who knows?
And one of the players in that game who seemed like he had an impressive performance was Tyler Johnson, the freshman. I think a lot of people were, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but happy to see him do well. He sounds like he's a flashy player that was just kind of waiting for his breakout game. Can you talk more about him as a player?
I think both are extremely accurate. A pleasant surprise. Had flashed that kind of talent before. I'm a big horse racing guy. One of the reasons I was come to Louisville and been there for 38 years. So past performances mean a lot to me. This is a tough team, past performances wise. It's like the horse that got stopped, in mid stretch and literally didn't finish, and then comes back and romps. And he's one of those examples of how they did it and why. So that said, where do you go from here, right? So you got a game against Syracuse now on the road. The Cardinals have obviously really struggled even at home, much less on the road. So what can you really expect from him or from them? This may be one of the most challenged windows of my career in terms of trying to figure out what to expect. I mean, the odds suggest that Syracuse will crush them. But after seeing the Cardinals the other day and some of the breakout performances, for them to score 100 points, for them to, I cracked up on the ACC conference call on Monday when Kenny Payne referenced them now being a dangerous team. Almost fell out of my chair when he made a statement like that. But that said, I think there's some bit of truth to that because you really don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's a team that has a lot of talent, but maybe hasn't put the pieces together for this season. And this might be the hardest question of all, but for this team, how do you explain them going from, last Saturday, a game against, Virginia, where they really struggled. They were down by, I don't know, 20 or 30 in the first half and came back a little bit to where, they had that win against Florida State on Saturday. I think Coach Payne talked a little bit about inconsistency being due to their young team, but can you explain it?
If I could explain it really well, I think I'd be in a much higher profile job or coaching job than I am right now. But for whatever it's worth, this is a very unique situation. I mean, Louisville historically has been one of the elite programs. It won the national championship back in 2013, but most of those kids that are now, fast forward 11 years, were little kids when Louisville won it. This generation is all about, now, what have you done for me today? NIL, transfer portal. And in that environment and what has happened here in the last 3 or 4 years in terms of the dysfunction that has gone on, I think maybe it was underestimated how bad off the program was. I'm a big fan of Kenny's. He is a guy that you'd want to be your dad, your older brother. I mean, some of the guys that he's coached along the way who are now in the NBA speak of him in reverent tones. He is a guy who is an adopted father in many ways, but he's never been a head coach. And that's a skill set Doesn't mean you're necessarily an X's and O's guys. I mean, maybe having an assistant who's a stronger X's and O guy might help Kenny. But this is an odd place. Can he survive it? And under what circumstances? So answering your question is really hard. I wish I knew what to expect over the next 5, 6, 7 weeks, whatever it is. Round number is March 15th, much less playing Syracuse right now. Of all the teams I've ever covered, I've been in broadcasting 49 years and 38 years here. I'm not sure I've ever seen a situation as uniquely unhandicappable as this one. It's almost like a maiden race in horse racing where there are no past performances. Their first lifetime starts, and you're like, who are we going to get today? Although there are past performances. But to that point, Nick, it's like, so you've seen the spectacular in the last game against Florida State, and you've seen the opposite of that in Virginia. This is not the first rodeo. This is not the first interview I've had about this team. And I'm like, I wish I could speak more articulately about it, but I don't know, to answer your question. And sometimes I think in our business, it's okay to say that, it's I wish I was an expert. And I guess at some points, in some ways, maybe I have been, but sometimes even if you're lucky enough to have been to the rodeo once or twice, sometimes you have to say you don't know. I don't know what to expect from this team. I truly don't. And I'm not sure Kenny does either, but I can tell you if they found something against Florida State, they will be a dangerous team. I just don't know if I have much confidence that's really going to be the case. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. My next question is kind of asking you to step into the shoes of what the fans what they're thinking right now. Obviously, they had 6 or 7 losses before that win on Saturday. I'm guessing, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a fan. Like, I'm not super hopeful. Even, it was a nice win, but that's just one win. Maybe if they get this win against Syracuse, and you're like, oh, maybe there's some hope for this season or for this program or for Kenny Payne. Am I right in kind of assuming that that's how the fans feel right now?
Well, having grown up in upstate New York and knowing the mindset of Syracuse fans and having played golf with Jim Boeheim years ago, I think it's a lot like that mindset that Syracuse fans have or have had about their program along the way, about what the heck is going on here, and at what point, in your case, did we let Boeheim go? Maybe it went a little longer than it should have. This is a different animal. It's only been a couple of years. But Kenny's been around or in the mindset of these people since 1986. I mean, he's one of their own. And the African-American community has really embraced him in a lot of ways. And he's a really good guy. And his pedigree is outstanding. So it's really polarized the fan base. Mm-hmm. There's a school of thought that this is, come on, we got to move on. And there's the opposite side, which is, you're all nuts. You haven't given them a chance. It's only been 2 years. For me, it's always about following the money. And when you're only drawing 5,000 or 6,000 a game in a program that has been prideful about drawing 22,000 a game like Syracuse, following the money, they're losing at least $1 million a game just in tickets, not including concessions and everything else. My sense is this is going to end in roughly 6 weeks because of that. Mm-hmm. That said, I have that sort of reserved thought that maybe good minds will prevail, and maybe they'll give Kenny 1 more year. I don't think so, but I won't be surprised if that happens.
We'll circle back to this Louisville basketball team and specifically their game tonight against Syracuse. And I know you didn't call yourself an expert, but in this situation, I'm going to make you the expert. And your expert analysis, what do you think they need to do to repeat, their performance from Saturday and upset the Orange tonight?
They make a lot of mistakes. They make a lot of bad decisions. And if they could start minimizing those some, instead of talking specifics, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield obviously has become an excellent ball player. With school Tennessee, transferred here, didn't so well the first year, is playing a lot better now. They've tried to force the ball underneath a lot to him. If they can handle the ball better, make fewer turnovers and more assists, it sounds simple, but it's just the Hubie Brown school of handicapping, but it's true. I mean, that would go a long way in this case. Staying out of foul trouble, increase your assists, pass the ball, find the open shot, minimize their challenge shots, and just handle the ball better. I think those would go a long way. I mean, Sky's a great ball player. I mean, they've got some pieces that, in the right world could be a 500 team. Just hasn't gone that way. But from that standpoint, I will agree with Kenny that they are a dangerous team, because when they put it together, I think they can beat almost anybody. I go back to November when they almost beat Texas. I mean, so we've seen glimpses, but we've also seen just some really bad basketball, and just wish they could manage it a little bit better. The odds are Syracuse is going to win tonight. The odds are Louisville's going to lose. But if they do some of the things I'm talking about, it gives them an honest chance.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely sounds like inconsistency has plagued this Cardinals team this season. We'll have to see how things go tonight between Syracuse and Louisville. Fred Cowgill of WLKY in Louisville. Fred, thanks so much for taking the time.
Nick, I wish you the best of luck with your career. You're starting in a great place. I'm sure I'll be watching you on ESPN and others for years to come.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.